shot him 6 times. I shot him in the heart. This man, he's not human.
Universal Pictures presents Halloween 2. More of the night he came home.
Welcome to my review for Halloween 2, the original. This is part of the original timeline that no longer exists. Halloween 2 is a sequel to John Carpenter's original film that came out in 1979. This sequel is directed this time around not by Carpenter, but by upcoming director Rick Rosenthal, who is actually the real-life husband of Nancy Stevens, who played the nurse in the original Halloween movie. This movie, this time around, is a direct sequel that picks up right where the first Halloween left off. This one, though, is not only is it directed by Rick Rosenthal, this movie itself is a continuation of that film. And so, with lots of twists and turns, let's get into it. The movie is written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, who originally did not want to make the movie. They actually said they did not want to come back. They felt like the first film was fine as is, and they didn't want to continue or do nothing with this movie. And so what had happened is, the studio and everybody was begging, oh, we want to do a Halloween 2, we want to do a Halloween 2, and give this film a conclusion. And so they were like, no. And finally, after like a couple of their friends talked them into it that worked on the first film, they were working on the sequel. Because they were like, oh, look, because they finally said they said they could make it, but they don't want no involvement, as long as they get paid. And so basically that's what was happening, and the people that were going to be involved, they had friends that worked on the first one, they're going to work on the second one. They're like, look, come on, just write it or something, come on, just do something, John, come on. And so, of course, John Carpenter finally said, all right, fine. And so John Carpenter had this original idea that would instead take place right where the film left off, it would actually take place a year later, and it'd be in an apartment building, and Michael Myers stalking her through a high-rise apartment. Realizing that it would cost too much money, they decided to scrap that, and after lots of production meetings and stuff, said, let's just do it about a hospital, okay? Let's let Michael Myers roam the neighborhood and go to a hospital. But it's not really a hospital, it's a clinic, he said. John Carpenter, because a hospital would actually be much bigger and much wider, so instead they said a clinic, they made it like a smaller clinic. So that way it would keep the budget reduced. And so, and that's why there's not that many people in the clinic. So what happened is John Carpenter, they wrote the movie and everything, and actually oversaw most of the footage that was being shot. In fact, John Carpenter himself has said that he did not like the director Rick Rosenthal's cut originally. In fact, he felt like there were not enough kills in the movie, and this is at a time where Friday sequels were coming out, and Nightmare on Elm Street was not there yet. It was about to be on the horizon, though. And so it was about to come like all these slasher movies. There was the rise of slasher movies. And so John Carpenter felt like this movie would be not as superior as the first film. So he said he actually took the camera away from Rick Rosenthal and actually went back, reshot a bunch of violent, more gory deaths. Like, for instance, one of the scenes that was reshot was the scene with the doctor and the needle in his eye, and then Michael Myers turns around and comes back and stabs her in her brain. That scene was done by Carpenter. And also another scene that was done by Carpenter was directed by Carpenter, was the scene with the little boy with the boombox, where Michael Myers just shows up, like he runs into Michael Myers, and then you see the two nurses talking where she's got to get back to her job. That was also done by Michael Myers. By John Carpenter, not Michael Myers. But yeah, that was all done. There's a couple other scenes that were shot by John Carpenter. And so, but most of the movie is Rick Rosenthal's movie. But some scenes were done by John Carpenter. Like one scene, I think the flashback scene with Laurie Strode was something that was done by John Carpenter. And I know also that there was footage that was shot on set of Halloween 2 for a TV version of Halloween. If you ever watched on the Sci-Fi Channel, you would see the footage where it's after Michael Myers kills his sister in the original movie. You actually see a court hearing where they're talking about Michael Myers. Dr. Loomis is there, and they're talking to the doctors about how he should be committed. And then Dr. Loomis afterwards walks into his room, and you see that it's his sister. Like, you see him just staring at a wall, and he's just staring, and then all of a sudden, Dr. Loomis shuts the door, and it says, like, so many years later, and then you see, like, him in the car being about to transport Michael Myers, and then, of course, you've seen the movie. So that footage was also shot by Carpenter on set of Halloween 2. And so, because apparently they said that NBC was going to pick up the distribution rights to air the movie on cable, and so what had happened is, they said, look, the movie's too short, you need to shoot some additional footage, and that happens in Hollywood. If a movie's too short of runtime, they'll ask if you'll shoot more footage, and so they did that, and so now Carpenter nowadays hates that footage. So you'll probably never see that footage again, but it's on YouTube. Just go check it out. It's on YouTube. Just type in Halloween TV scenes, missing TV scenes or something, or deleted scenes. You'll see it up there. And so, and also, the movie returns, once again, stars Jamie Lee Curtis, Donald Pleasance, Charles Cypher. New is Lance Gust, who plays like a paramedic love interest. Hunter Von Leer is the deputy who kind of becomes like the main focus of the deputies after Charles Cypher's character has to step down from his position due to the death of his daughter from the first movie. And basically, and then also, new to this movie is no longer does Nick Castle play Michael Myers, but instead Dick Warlock is now back into the cast. He plays Michael Myers because Nick Castle became a director. He's known, he also became a writer and director. He co-wrote he co-wrote Escape from New York with Carpenter, and he went on to direct movies like Major Payne, which I did not know. I was like, huh, that's really good on him. And so Nick Castle's now, there's lots of other movies I'm forgetting that he's made, and I'm like, oh, good on him, good on Nick Castle, you know, that's good on him, you know. So unfortunately, because of Nick Castle becoming a director, they had to recast Michael Myers, and so of course they cast this guy called Dick Warlock, who, funny story how he became Michael Myers. What had happened is, he actually he saw Michael Myers, he went to the production office, saw a Michael Myers mask on the counter, put it on, and then went to director Rick Rosenthal's office, and just stood there and staring like this, like, and then after multiple times of the director asking who you are, what do you want, I'm going to call security if you don't answer, he finally took off the mask and said, after 20 minutes later, was like, can I play Michael Myers? And the director, being impressed with his consistency and stuff, said, yes, you can play Michael Myers. And then, of course, the only bad thing about that was he was a lot shorter than Nick Castle, and he, so sometimes you would see that the mask, even though they put him in higher shoes, the mask sometimes, because Nick Castle, I guess, had a bigger face and was taller, the mask would sometimes feel flat on him, so it just looked like somebody wearing like a mask unpadded. You ever buy a Michael Myers mask that's not padded? Yeah, it felt like that. Just like the mask is like way bigger than your head is, and it's just like so annoying. But and also like it feels like sometimes like his face, like you can see his eyes through the mask. There's only one or two shots that were done by Carpenter where you could see that where he's one is where he's chasing Laurie in the basement. You could see that was the Carpenter shot, and also you can see because he has no eyes, you don't see the eyes. All you see is just the mask. And you can see in the scene, of course, that I've said with the death scene with the eyeball, that was also done by Carpenter. And what you can see, the scenes that where he doesn't has the face where he's you see just a dark blackness behind the mask and no eyes. That's Carpenter shots. And that's nothing to take away from Rick Rosenthal. He did a good job. I mean, he did a good job. Most directors, it's really a tough task. And you know what? I understand. I respect this movie. He did a good job. 80% of that movie is his. Only 10% or 20% is Carpenter's. Even though Carpenter wrote the movie, he also, he just helped out. Kind of like how George Lucas helped out with Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Rick Rosenthal kept the fire warm. He did a good job. He did a good job. There's other people that could have made this movie and it would have been much worse. And this is actually a decent Halloween. Out of Halloween 3 and Halloween 5 and 6, this movie is much better than those movies. Trust me, it could have been a much worse movie. And actually, when it came out, it did not have a great reception. It did not make more money than the first movie, but it did outdo Friday the 13th Part 2, so that's good. And it did a couple other slashers that outdid. But yeah, the movie at first was the first one was much better, and a lot of people kind of but they did kill off the character. But then, because the movie was such a box office hit, they went on and made Halloween 3. And Halloween 3, the Carpenter and Hill said they did not want it to be Michael Myers. That's why they killed Michael Myers off at the end of the movie. And so, of course, Michael Myers, you don't see him in the third movie. And it's just like an anthology movie about masks that kill people. And then people hated that because they felt like Michael Myers was the heart of the franchise. So they basically, the producers said, all right, we're going to bring him back for Halloween 4. And Carpenter and Hill were mad about that because they feel like that kind of disrespects Halloween 2. And so they said, all right, they'll sell the rights off. You can make their slasher as long as we have a paycheck, we're good. And then that's what happened. And that's why Halloween kept going on without John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. But good news is, I think Carpenter Carpenter got the rights. I believe he got the rights back to him, and then he made a deal with Blumhouse. So, and I think he gets the rights back again soon. So he'll still have the rights to Halloween, which, thank God. I mean, he's a good filmmaker. Which he's not one of those people that's like, look, Halloween's mine, and you can't have it. He's one of those people that's like, look, if he doesn't really like something, he'll just say, look, as long as I got a paycheck, do what you will, you know. But he also has said, like, when Rob Zombie made Halloween, he did tell Rob Zombie, look, just go make it your own. John Carpenter's not like a person that's like, the only thing he ever said that he would be upset with, he would at least like to be involved with, is Escape from New York. He said, look, if they ever remake it, I just want to be involved. That's all I want to do. Just because he said he likes that movie, and he just feels like, don't touch it unless you, at least I can see what we're doing. You know, because he's not, any other movie, he said, I don't care. Make it, remake it. As long as I have a paycheck sitting on my desk, do whatever the hell you want with it. You know? And which that's fine. I mean, like, he was like, which he didn't really, he said, he didn't really earn much money from the first film. Halloween 2, he earned more money. He didn't really earn nothing from Halloween 3 because it was a flop. And then Halloween 4, he sold the rights off, and so he got a payday out of Halloween 4, but 5, 6, and 7, and 8, he didn't make nothing out of because he's like, I'm directing other movies. They offered him to come back for Halloween H2O, but he didn't want to because he was like, I'm making another movie, and he was not happy with the producers, the way they did him on Halloween 4, where like, oh, we're going to bring back Michael Myers, and, you know. But I will say this movie is, in fact, really good. This movie is really good, in fact. And I will say that it does kind of feel like a conclusion. If you don't watch Halloween 4 through Resurrections, you will not be disappointed because it feels like it concludes. Or if you're like me, you want to know the whole entire lore of Halloween, go ahead and watch all of them. I will say that the movie does feel like times where it just feels so confined in one place, like the hospital. And it feels sometimes like certain characters feel like expositional. Like it just feels like, okay, conveniently, like he passes, like he sees someone with a radio that says, oh, the victim's at the hospital, and then there's a giant sign that says hospital on it. You're just like, oh my god. Like, it's almost like, you know, might as well have a sign, and there is a sign that says hospital. It's basically might as well say like a sign that says the victim is this way, go kill her. You know, like, that's basically what it's pointing to. The movie is really good, though. I mean, I know the first one will always be the best, but the sequel does try to be a good sequel, you know? And it does a good job at it, you know? And I will say the music is also done by Carpenter with Alan Horn, you know, helping out with the score. But Carpenter actually, like, it does feel like you feel that Carpenter, like, you know, like the stalking, when the shape stalks theme. You feel like he does a reversion of that score. And I've noticed that, and they play that more than anything in that movie. Like, don't, da da, don't. Like that it's a remix of da 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 da. Like, it's just like, but it's more like an 80s remix of that. And I'm like, huh, okay. You know, and you also hear Mr. Sandman twice in this movie, so I'm like, oh, so that's really cool. I really like this movie. If I had to give it a grade, I would give it probably a solid A-.
Halloween 2. More of the night he came home.